Hey everyone, Hinterland Customs here. Bench update. Walking Dead diorama is almost finished. As you can see, I've got the figures done, the structure is done. You saw the car in the last the last video, excuse me. And the car is done. I still got to put the side mirrors on it, and then it'll be done. And I forgot the rear view mirror in it, which I knew I would do that for some reason. So I think I'll just take the rear view mirror and paint it up and throw it out in the weeds, along with that Budweiser box that's going to go in the weeds on the side of the building over here. Might have a little bit of debris here and there, but anyway, just colored the base here with some oil paint, just an oil wash that I'd use, and I just let that sit and dry, and then that just takes the clay color out. I used DOS clay; it's spelled DAS, and this worked really good. Like it didn't crack or shrink anywhere. So I was pretty happy with it. I used that on the cursed diorama as well. Uh, anyway, and then I'll build up the terrain and position everything for its final show, and it will be complete. So it feels good to see light at the end of the tunnel. There was times I thought, I'd start this building that I built. It was sitting off to the side, and I was wondering if I'd ever get everything done. But I always push myself to finish projects. I hate leaving something unfinished. Even if it's an NPC kit that I hate building. The second part of this video is just talking a little bit about an IPMS show I went to recently. This is the show I talked about 2 years ago in a video, and I talked about how they didn't like weathering. So when I weathered like tanks and I took the Daredevil diorama to that one. I did not place at that one. I think there was about 12 dios that day. It was odd, and I talked about the winner of that category, and it ties in with this story, what happened this year. So I'll come back to the winner of that category in a second. But long story short, as the judges are milling around judging, I happened to I was at a friend's vendor table for a bit visiting with him, and then I started walking down the aisle there. And I walked by the table, and these three guys were judging, and my curse diorama was there along with two others. And the thing I noticed right off is they weren't looking at the front of the curse diorama; they were looking at the back of it. It's not meant to be looked at from the back, although you can. I try to make a diorama so you can look at it from just about every angle. But anyway, the guy in the middle, these two who weren't saying much, he stood up and he was talking to these two, and he said, dioramas tell a story, but ultimately we have to judge the model. And I thought, oh man, I might be in trouble here. So I still eavesdropped a little bit. I was like, oh, I just wanted to hear what they had to say. I was fascinated to hear what their approach was, when judging this stuff. And there was a lot of good stuff there. There was a lot of really good dioramas there. Anyway, Then this guy started complaining. He was tapping this pencil. He had this pencil. He kept banging it on the Panzer III tank of mine, and he was complaining about missing paint. He goes, "This guy's got missing paint all over the place. There's missing paint everywhere." And I thought, oh, I just walk on over there. So I walked on over there and walked right up behind him and said, "Hi, my name's Dustin. I was the guy that built this. Do you have any questions?" And the guy we talked about the missing paint thing, and I said, well, yes, technically it is missing paint because it's representing missing paint because it's called chipping. And that's it's a technique you use in weathering. And I could tell by the look on this guy's face, he had absolutely no clue what I was talking about. I mean, the look on his face was like I just hit him in the nuts with a baseball bat or something. I don't know. He had this mortal, wounded look in his face. I can't even describe it. He kind of looked like Santa Claus, just an old guy with a white beard and a loco train hat, those hats that train conductors wear, with the blue and white stripes. Yeah, probably had some coveralls too. I can't remember, but yeah, the old guy, I thought he was going to have a heart attack, so I kind of backed off, and I was just, being friendly. I was just like, hey, do you have any questions, But I could tell he didn't know what weathering was, and I was like, well, I'm in trouble here, It's clear if they don't even know what weathering is, they're not going to even understand what this diorama is. I mean, seriously. So the guy told me, then the one guy that made that statement earlier about we have to judge the model, he told me, we just judge the model. That's what they do. They don't judge the diorama. So the figures, the poses that the figures are in, the weathering, the abandoned tools in the trench, the burned out Panzer engine, the battle damage. We talked a little bit about battle damage. The guy that didn't understand chipping also did not seem to understand the battle damage. I thought I made it pretty clear. I have a shell hole that comes through the KV1 at an angle, and then it went out to the side there and blew off a couple road wheels, and the fender's crunked up. The track is broke. I thought that was pretty clear. But anyway, it is what it is. I explained to them what I could, and then at that point, they're just telling me they're just judging it by the tank and not by the diorama. So my final question was, why do you guys even bother having a diorama category if you're just going to judge one item that's on the diorama? This goes back to the video 2 years ago. This goes back to the one that won the whole thing in diorama. There was I think there was 12 or 14 last time. And the one that won really perplexed me because it was just a black styrofoam sheet, kind of like this base here you see, except it was probably half the thickness, or maybe it was. So it was a black piece of styrofoam like this. I actually painted that. It used to be blue. Black piece of styrofoam. The guy had the front of like a French storefront, like a building like in France or Europe during World War II that was all, it's got pock marks on the brick walls and stuff. It's a pre-made building that like ICM makes. So you buy it for whatever, $15 US, and you slap a little side piece on there, and then you've got this little storefront. You can build onto it or whatever. There's other pieces you can buy that go with it. So he had that storefront there, just sitting there. It had not been painted at all because it comes gray with black marks under the windowsills. And he had just stuck this on this base like this, about where that shed is. And then he had a Valentine tank sitting here. And that one diorama. And there was nothing else on it. There was no debris. There was no weathering. There was not any broken glass, bricks, piles of wood, bullet casings, abandoned motorcycles, you name it. There was nothing else on there but the tank and that little wall. And that guy won the whole thing. And I always kind of thought that was odd because to me it was like, where's the effort here? This really, there wasn't much done here. So anyway, that's the moral of my story. Tied in with, what happened now. But the thing is, I've talked to other people that are involved in IPMS in other states, and theirs are not judged like that. So this local chapter, it's just the way they do it. And I think a lot of it's because when it comes to judging a lot of stuff, a lot of these guys don't build a lot of different things. And so diorama is something that just throws them off. Just like cars throw them off. None of them are car builders. So when they go to judge cars, it's a crapshoot. You could take a glue bomb there and win, or you could take your most masterful piece you've ever built and not place. I mean, we've seen it happen. It's kind of odd. And I always say, hey, it's their show. I'm not sounding like some bitter, like I'm not mad I didn't get an award. I don't care. But it comes back to why have a diorama category if you're just going to judge the model on it? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So needless to say, I probably won't be taking any more dioramas there. If I'll just take the single tanks. And I did take the KV2. I guess was in contention. It but that was where I took just a regular single tank. But don't like weathering. Don't like diorama. I don't know. I think it just goes back to that thing. If you're gonna host a show, you just have your ducks in order and do what you can do. Don't if you don't know anything about diorama, or if you can't judge a dio as a dio, then don't do it. Just don't have the category. There's as simple as that. Anyway, I've talked long enough. Been watching a few videos here and there. Looks like everybody's having a good time building away. I'm looking forward to having this done and moving on to whatever's next. But this one I am pretty pleased with. This was a heck of a thing for me to take on. It was involving some things I'd never done before. I have not really done structure much before. I always just did terrain, and I had a lot of fun building that shed there. It was the rust and everything's turned out okay. And I can't get this arm to stay. So with that, I will sign off. You guys take care out there. This is Hinterland Customs. Until next time.